Hi guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. As you can see from the title of this video, here I'm going to be speaking about the things that happen after Miss India, Mental Health Edition. In the first video, I did discuss about all the avenues that open up for you after you finish your Miss India or a Miss Diva or any major pageant. But what people don't tell you is what you go through emotionally after being at pretty much the peak of your career. So I'm not going to make this a sob story, but I'm going to tell you exactly what I went through, and in the process also tell you how my fellow contestants kind of coped with it, and maybe this will give you a better idea as to how you should if you are participating in a pageant. Well, the first thing is a major dopamine drop. Dopamine is your happy hormone, and the doses of dopamine that you get when you are doing a pageant like a Miss India, you are at the top of the world, right? You're the talk of the town. Every single person who you have ever met in your life, chahe wo school ho, college ho, may it be the work, everybody knows you're at Miss India and everybody's rooting for you, and your family is being congratulated, your parents are super proud of you, and your graph is going up, 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 and the finale happens and there's one winner, right? Everybody else has to get back to their life, and even though we are all mentally prepared for it, something that you can't completely prepare for. So what happens after that is you are unable to find any source of happiness for at least a few months. It gets really hard for you to even get out of the bed, and I mean, for me, definitely that was the case, because I also wasn't working. I'd quit my job, and I had really nothing to look forward to. It was very difficult for me to make a decision again, even though my parents were like, theek hai, ho gaya, you know, get up, move on, think about what's next. What's next ke liye wo jo mental energy chahiye hoti hai, I did not have. Very dear friend of mine kind of called me up and said, you know, we have a hip hop class that we're joining, do you want to join in? And I said, I need to do something to move. So I would push all of my energy into getting up and going to those hip hop classes at least 3 times a week. It wasn't easy to then, you know, look at the papers also, because then you have homecoming and stuff that happens for the people who won. And as happy as you are, I'm very happy for all of the girls who win. I'm sure the organization, she sees the best in them. But it's hard to know that you are not in that place, you know, and the acceptance is not as easy as you think. It's different to be happy for somebody, but you cannot ignore the pain that you're going through. So I would not look at papers at all. It was really tough, because you're also coming back from a city which you kind of had like too many people around, so much was happening on a daily basis, to a very regular life. Secondly is a job gap. A lot of people leave their jobs to come to the pageant. A lot of people take like a drop year or something, or put their college on hold, and a lot of things have to be recontinued, although you wanted life to go in a different direction, because ideally you're thinking that you're going to win the pageant, right? That's the mentality that everybody goes in with. But to again change tracks, especially if you don't have a plan B, which a lot of us don't. A lot of us don't think of agar nahi jeetungi to, because that feels like such a negative thought process to have, except it's not. I really wish I had thought more about it that way. So what I dealt with was then making decisions again on whether I should go back to the job that I had, or whether I should continue in this field, because it's gotten me so far. Maybe I should try, if I can work it out commercially, you know, like try modeling, try acting, instead of getting sucked into the 9 to 5 and not having time for it again. So that's like a very important decision to make, and the sooner you make that decision, the better it is for you, because the more you kind of waddle behind 2 different emotions, and you're, you know, putting your foot in 2 different boats, you're not having clarity for yourself. Even if it's a wrong decision, make it. If it's wrong, you're going to get to know that it isn't working out for you really soon, than being in the constant dilemma. The third thing was shifting cities. Times Talent is based in Mumbai, and a lot of work that they give you is Mumbai based. So even though I was auditioning from Bangalore after I'd made the decision that I want to try modeling and acting, there were a lot of times I would get shortlisted for a lot of TVCs, and they'd say, hey, there's a test shoot today at 8 PM, or there's a test shoot tomorrow at 9, and I was like, at least give me some time to book my tickets, because first of all, last minute tickets, you can imagine how expensive they are, and you can't keep doing that. So it reached a point where I realized I would get a lot more work if I was in Mumbai, because I was losing out on some really good deals because I was in Bangalore. And I got shortlisted for Star Sports, and I had to go there physically to give the audition, and that seemed like a really good job. I said, you know what, after that I'm going to stay there for a few months, because Bombay Times Fashion Week was also happening. I'd given my name for that. I thought, let me figure out and let me stay in Bombay for a while and let me see how that's going to work. So then I moved cities. I had never lived alone apart from like a hostel when I was doing my MBA. This was all on my own. Parents weren't at all happy about it. They were like, you know, pageants did not help you out and you are back to where you are. Why do you want to go again with another profession that you have no clarity in? And I said, if I never try, I'll never know, you know, and I know I will regret this. And so I left. Didn't know where to stay. Mumbai is not the first city that you should try your luck in because it's so fast. Figured it out somehow, started to get work somehow. You realize that even though you have an agency in your hand, they have so many girls, right? They have all the Miss Indias and Miss Divas become a Times talent, and there are winners also who in general they have to push a little more in terms of the kind of work they get. So it kind of becomes like a competition within the agency also. So it gets really hard if that's your only source of income, and Mumbai is such an expensive city. It reached a point where my expenses started to exceed my income, and that started to scare the hell out of me. Mumbai is a story that I will talk to you about some other day in another video, probably. Break Mumbai down to you just the way I did for myself, which would make it easier if you're moving into the city or you're planning to act or try acting and auditioning in the city. But yeah, that's another decision that I had to make. The next thing I did was again change streams. What had happened was recession had set in, so all of the companies, like the IT company I was working at, they were not willing to take me back in because they said there was a hiring freeze, and my resume was filled with the job description that kind of fit the IT company because that was my first ever job. But any IT company that I went to, all of them had a hiring freeze. So then I had to change streams, and currently I'm working with a PR agency, which is very different to what I used to do, but I guess change is the only constant. But that was also something that I had to get used to. I also started to take personal guidance sessions in the month of Jan. I started to notice, because I was the previous Femina Miss India Punjab title holder, I started to get a lot of queries from a lot of girls in my DMs, and I thought ki I'm anyways not having a job. I'd come back from Mumbai to Bangalore, and I said I'm willing to give people the knowledge that they want, might as well make like a whole-fledged session out of it. So that's when I started with the personal guidance session. I spoke to so many of you. I'm so glad that you all thought I was worthy of investing into. I'm going to put a highlight down here which talks about, you know, the number of girls I've trained, and the testimonials that you all have given me has just been the most fulfilling, honestly, which is why I also took up the role of a pageant coach, which I will talk about a little later. But yeah, personal guidance session was quite a landmark move for me. I think it worked out pretty well. I finally also started to take therapy. I had never gone to a mental health professional like full-fledged before, ever. But I realized that I tried to push it as far as I could, but things had not been okay ever since Miss India. Because I personally have always been a girl who has mostly seen success, you know, and it has been very proportionate. Like, hard work has been proportionate to success. And because I've been a student for 23 years of my life, it has mostly come down to you study hard, you get good marks. You know, you work really hard at a fashion show, you win. You try your best at a college pageant, they think you're the best. But as the stakes get higher, a lot of this kind of starts to blend and mix around. And I had never faced failure at this magnitude before, ever. It wasn't just this, but it was also that a lot of the coping mechanisms that I had built for myself when I feel low, may it be something as simple as listening to music, exercising, dancing, all of those things were not working out for me anymore. And I didn't know how to feel okay again, and that's when I started to speak to my friends. And you will be surprised how many people actually take therapy. They're just not like out and about it. And so I got a few references. I kind of reached out to all of them, you know, saw who fit my budget, and then started to go for them. I went for like 3 months from Jan to March, and it was one of the best decisions of my life because I understood so much about me, and I realized that that me not making it as a Miss India world was just a tipping point, and there was so much behind that I should have thought about, or you know, things that you don't realize, and you keep pressing it down and moving on to the next step, whereas eventually it all comes crashing in. This is what happens when you don't deal with your emotions and just move on to the next best thing. When you don't let yourself feel the negative emotions and be like, no, you know, it's okay if bad things happen, I'm just going to move on to the next thing. All of those things keep getting piled up, and they do come back in ways that you don't want them to, and then it gets really hard to cope up with. So a lot of things that I learned through therapy, but that was also like a very important decision for me, and it helped me quite a lot to move on actually from the bitterness I felt after Miss India. And then I finally saw Nikita had put a halt to her Conquer coaching. Nikita Tanwani is Femina Miss India Andhra Pradesh. She has also, you know, made a lot of videos on Miss India. She's one of the main reasons that I even tried Miss India, because of her YouTube videos, and she had put a halt. So I kind of reached out to her and asked her if can I help her, you know, keep her business in India. And she, after a lot of calls and a lot of understanding, we both agreed, and that's how we're going to continue with Conquer as a pageant institute and hope that it grows, because we both are giving our best, working across different time zones, her from US and me from India. And I just really hope that eventually Conquer becomes one of the biggest pageant institutes in the country. A lot of your confidence does take a hit, even though you know now that you can achieve some of the biggest things, because Miss India also was something pretty huge, and out of so many girls, you were one of them who got a chance. That means that there is something in you. It also makes you a little averse to taking risks, because this risk didn't work out and it backlashed, and you know, the higher the risk, the higher the fall. Also, you know, okay, high risk, high return ho sakta hai, but what if that risk leads to a failure? You fall that much lower, right? So it gets really hard to do a lot of things with like pure dil se, because now you're scared. What if this also doesn't work out? What if that also doesn't work out? So a sense of pessimism is kind of what gets into you. But eventually it is the process of how you get back up, you know. In pageants, jahan pe questions puche jate hain ki who do you think is a better teacher, failure or success? And a lot of people say failure is a bigger teacher. And I had not faced failure up until Miss India at the magnitude that I did. And I have to say failure is a better teacher, no doubt. The character development you have when you try to get back up after things really, really crush you is insane. And the best part is that the girls will understand. Your parents won't, your friends won't, because no one's been there or seen the pageant the way your other pageant girlies have. Your co-contestants, if you were somebody who went in as a friend, you know, who wasn't like aisa competition that after the competition nobody ever wants to talk to you, they will understand. I cannot tell you how much of strength that they used to give me as much as I would try to give them to get through this together. I think a lot of us are doing very, very well for ourselves and have moved on to the next best thing in our lives, and that's mostly because we were all there for each other. There would be calls, there would be voice notes, there would be really long paragraphs of us just talking about how it's getting so hard for us to make it past the event. And just knowing that there are other people who've been through the same thing, are going through the same thing, there's a sense of camaraderie that, you know, is undeniable.